Good day. This video is combining the different ways of noting numbers in maths. It's called notation. In notation, we got set builder notation, number lines, interval notation, and a set of numbers. This is the 4 different ways that numbers can be written, ways that you can use to answer questions that you're going to get in maths later on. But you need to understand how to read all of these and how they work. This is one example written in 4 different ways. It's actually always just 3, but you need to see one of the 3. You can either use interval notation or a set, but never these 2 together. Right, this is saying we're working with natural numbers. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. We're using the numbers. We're looking for the numbers that are smaller and equal to 4. So that's 4, 3, 2, 1. That's what this says. It says it to you, so you need to be able to understand what I just said. On a number line, it's indicated like this: 4, 3, 2, 1 with solid dots there, nothing else. And then you cannot write this in interval notation because interval notation only gets used if you've got real numbers. Just look at the video that explains interval notation to you. And then you can write this as a set of numbers. So in curly brackets, that's a set. You write 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to do a few examples and just read through it with you, that you see how they relate to each other and when do you not use something and when do you use it. Right, here I wrote another example. You must be able to write this in set builder notation for me, interval notation for me, and you cannot write it in a set of numbers. I'll explain that now. So you must now try that yourself. Think how you do this one. We're going to do it up here for you. I write it like this. I put the x between the 2 numbers because we want the numbers between the 2 numbers. I put the 2 numbers outside. And because it's included with black dots, I put equal signs over there. And at the back, I say we are working here with x is an element of real numbers. So this is how we write it in interval notation. In other words, set builder notation. And then this is how we write it in interval notation. So it is x is elements from -2 to 1, including, because of the square brackets, the -2 and the 1, and all the million numbers in between. You cannot put a set of numbers down here. Think about it logically. You can give me -2, you can give me 1, but no numbers in between. So I can't write an example of the numbers that I want. There are too many of them. So we can't use a set of numbers in this answer. Let's look at this example now. Now we must go and write it on a number line, set builder notation, in as a set. If it's possible, you must think logically about this. We can't write it as a set because this is only real numbers that we are using over here. So this guy over here will be not. On the number line, I'm going to put down the 2 because they want the 2 and it looks like they're going in this direction. So just put an extra number on this side. And that'll be the way we put it in on a number line. And the last one is set builder notation. That means we have to use the x and bigger and smaller than. I first put the 2 down that is mentioned that I can see, and then I work on the right hand side of the 2. I put my x on this side of the 2 because it looks like the numbers is going in this direction. Then you must just remember how the bigger than and smaller than works. So we want the number bigger than 2. And the number system that we're using is real because there's a solid line. And this is then what the set builder notation looks like. This part and this part is not very, very important in maths. Eventually we're going to end up sometimes even just writing this little piece here. But at the moment, for now, we need to understand that this goes together. So this is 3 different ways of writing the same thing. The numbers from 2 excluding 2 to infinity. The numbers from 2 to infinity excluding the 2. And here it says x is bigger than 2 and it's real numbers, so it's all the numbers from 2 that's bigger than 2. They say the same thing, that's why it's called 3 different ways of writing the same thing. Right. If you can answer this question without making a mistake, you really understand what's going on here. Right, so let's see if you can answer this question. Let's see where the snag is and how this works. Give yourself a minute. I'm going to waste a few seconds on the video here. See if you can see what the final answer here is. Stop the video and try and write what you think the answer here should be, and here should be, and then start the video again. Right, it says here that the part that people always make the mistake, they start on this side and then here. You should start at the back and say we're only allowed to answer natural numbers. So in my answer, I can only use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So be careful of that. Here it says we're looking for all the numbers between -4 and 3. But he is more important. So the minuses are all falling away. We only want the numbers that are bigger than -4, smaller than 3, but they must be natural numbers. So that's going to be 3, 2, and 1. That's our final answer. The number line, it will look like this. You cannot put it in interval notation. It is not real numbers. And then the set of numbers will be 1, 2, and 3. You can put it in a set. I said there's 4 ways of writing in notation, but usually one of them won't work. So we can write it in 3 different ways, but you must be careful between these 2. You can only use one of these 2 at a time. Let's see what you do with this one. This indicates, see if you can read what it says. This is just new to us. This says we are going to go on in this direction. So we pull up the stripe, we go right. So we start at 7, 8, 9, 10, we go on. Let's see what will you write here, what will you write here, and what do you write here. Careful, please. We cannot do it in interval notation like the previous one because it is not real numbers. We can put it in a set because we can write down the numbers we are talking about. The set builder notation I'm going to explain to you as I write it. Put the curly brackets first, and then at the back we write what kind of numbers this is. We start at the back by saying this is natural numbers. Should you write a Z here, they must mark it right. Put NO here, you must mark it right. But I'm going to go for natural numbers. We put that X in the beginning, now in grade 9. Now I start by putting the number on the left-hand side. The most left-hand side number is 7. I put it down. Then I say I'm going in this direction. Don't want that arrow. And the numbers I'm working with is going in this direction, so I will put my X on this side of the 7. And then the numbers we want must be bigger than 7 and including the 7. I write nothing on this side of the X because the numbers I want is going bigger than 7 without stopping. So it's not, that's what this arrow is telling me. And that's the final answer. We can write it as a set. This also means go on forever. You can write it on a number line. You can not put it in interval notation, and we can put it in set builder notation like this. Let's see if you can answer this one. Put off the video again and see if you can fill in the missing notations. So here is the first 2. Set builder notation, always a little bit extra hard work. We start at the back by saying X is an element of R. Then you can see we're starting at -1 and going to the left. So I'm going to write the -1 down on the right hand side and the X on the left hand side of that. Then I'm going to say that the numbers I'm looking for is smaller but not equal to the -1. And then you can close the curly brackets. This X is not so important, and then that is the final answer. Right, I'm quickly just going to explain this to you. It's not in the syllabus, but if you can understand this, you really got a head start in maths. But understand the previous notations that we did. Do not worry about this one too much. Right, the rules we made. Start at the back. This is whole numbers. You start at 0, 1, 2, 3. Here it says we're looking for the numbers that are smaller than 3. And then I'll explain to you what's going on here. So let this wait for a minute. So you start here, then you go here, then you go here. So we start, these numbers are the following. So this is my whole numbers. Then it says we want those numbers from these numbers that are smaller than 3. That means we do not want 3, we want smaller than 3 and not 4, so all these on this side falls away. That means we end up at this stage with these 3 numbers. Now you take them, because they are X, you times each one by 2, then you have your final answer. So 0 times 2 will give me 0, 1 times 2 will give me 2, and 2 times 2 will give me 4. So the answer that you have to write for this explanation over here is these 3 numbers. So again, you start at the back, you say you take your whole numbers, you take only these from them, those that are smaller than 3, and you do this to them. Enjoy notation.